Back in 2013, after years of production hell, World War Z's long-awaited film adaptation finally came to theaters, where it was met by a thunderous meh. Now 6 years later, for some reason, we now have a licensed game to go along with it. Developed by Saber Interactive and published by Focus Home Interactive. World War Z is a pretty damn solid co-op game that excels at one thing and is pretty bland at everything else, I have to say. As stated, it takes place in the same universe as the Brad Pitt film. World War Z doesn't actually have a central narrative. Instead, the game is divided between 4 different campaigns, each with their own characters, settings, and stories. This setup allowed the devs to include multiple locales, each with their own distinct look, from the open desert surrounding Jerusalem to the colourful yet cramped streets of Tokyo. But this does come at the expense of a comprehensive or overarching story. The characters do have backstories, and some are pretty interesting, but they don't play into the experience of actually playing the game. Whatever story there is self-contained to what you play through in a campaign, and they're not created equally. The New York campaign is about a group trying to escape from the city, which is so far so standard, while the Jerusalem one is about arming a laser satellite weapon to decimate the hordes, and Tokyo is about assisting with an evacuation effort. Despite narrative not being the main focus, the devs did manage an acceptable level of storytelling while showing off decent levels of creativity along with it. The game takes cues from other co-op shooters, most obviously Left 4 Dead. It even features a level director, but what sets it apart is its focus on quick bursts of action. The levels are all relatively short and go back and forth between being over in the blink of an eye to short but satisfying, and this works, thanks to how it ties into the game's best feature, the hordes. The game constantly throws insane numbers of zombies at you, and they never fail to elicit a sense of fear whenever they're on screen. Thanks not only to the short level time, but also by how you can see them dynamically react to the environment, from getting trapped in razor wire, creating steps so the rest of the horde can climb over them, to seeing them form those climbable mounds like ants. They never feel overused. On top of that, there are certain points where you also have to deal with a constant onslaught before you can progress, and these are balls of fun. Thanks not just to the sheer number coming at you, but because it encourages exploration. Now don't get me wrong on that, the levels are linear, but the game does reward you for looking around, with the director spawning things like healing items, new weapons, as well as set breaching charges, which you need to access supply caches that can really impact how well you do during these climactic moments. This is doubly true on the harder difficulties, where not only is skilled aiming paramount, but so is a leveled up class and team coordination. On the higher difficulties, the game can be incredibly punishing, but still fair if you know what you're doing. The shooting has a spray and pray feel to it, with a nice variety of weapons to choose from that are better applied for different situations, and you are encouraged to try them thanks to how progression is handled. Rather than the characters being pure blank slates, you can choose a class to go along with them, and what this will do is change up certain weapons you have at the start as well as what perks are applied, and the more you use it, the more you can access for that class, and the same is applied to the weapons. Taking cues from Black Ops 2, the more you use a weapon, the more customization options you unlock for it, which does change up the weapon stats and appearance, but you don't unlock skins or attachments, which sucks. Instead, you get different versions with set attachments. These can be swapped out, but I don't see why they couldn't just copy Black Ops 2's weapon customization and progression. The closest there is to that are some gold variations of some weapons, but unfortunately those were pre-order bonuses. Now, it should be said this is the type of game that's meant to be played again and again, which does mitigate a particular issue with World War Z, its anemic content. What's there with the main experience is fun, but there isn't a lot of it. Something that's driven home by the reality that the devs had to rush the Tokyo campaign and released it with 2 levels instead of 3. However, the game does something else that does add a little more to do. PvP, which is shockingly great and I dare say potentially better than the main experience. There's a wide variety of different game modes from team deathmatch to point control, and these matches can be incredibly hectic, since there's a counter in the background counting down to a zombie swarm spawning, which not only acts as a dividing barrier but adds a nice PvE element to keep everyone on their toes. There are also separate classes just for this, but progression is carried over universally, so you can grind in the PvP to unlock new perks and bonuses for the campaign, or vice versa if you wish. easily the game's most impressive feat is its technical stability. I remember how the original Dead Rising boasted how it could handle up to 999 zombies on screen at any time, a number World War Z beats about every 2 minutes. Which it does without ever suffering a dip in the frame rate, which is nothing short of absolute wizardry. I did notice some graphical hiccups with the zombies, but they were more of a source of humour than frustration. A bigger issue, though admittedly a nitpick, is the lack of creativity in the art direction. While I may have praised the creativity showcased in the diversity of settings, that doesn't mean it translated to the entirety of the presentation. The biggest offenders are the special zombies, which when compared to the game's contemporaries are just bland, ranging from a big guy in SWAT armor to a shirtless dude, a zombie in a hazmat suit, and a screaming construction worker. Now don't get me wrong, these guys are unique challenges that shake up the hordes, like how the construction worker attracts more zombies, or how the hazmat releases toxic gas unless you get him with a headshot. But where are things like an obese giant that can take insane punishment before turning into a roadblock, or a near liquefied suicide bomber that collapses into acidic medical waste when killed? None of these designs can be called anything but variations of the standard zombie, and I blame this on, well, the game being set in the universe of the movie, which would have been a severe creative handicap for the devs. As far as co-op shooters go, World War Z has a lot to offer despite not having a whole lot to show off. It does what it does, and it does it well, showing that the zombie trend still has some unlife in it. I wouldn't call it a must-buy or even Game of the Year material, but it is definitely worth a look at the absolute least. So if you're not burnt out on zombie media yet, and looking for something else to sink your teeth into, I'd say give it a go. You haven't got too much to lose. Hey, you just watched this video all the way through. Do you know what that makes you? A really awesome person and really awesome people. Like and subscribe. For real though, I hope you enjoyed the video, and up next for game reviews, I'll be taking a look at Bethesda's Rage 2. I've had my eye on that for quite a while now. And for upcoming movie reviews, I've got one in the pipeline for Avengers Endgame, and one for a fan film for the Blair Witch that I found on YouTube that was better than I thought it would be. I got all that and more coming up, so please just stick around.